Hey guys, this is Kim Hartz, and today I want to talk to you on how to scout a location for a pet photography session. So there are several things that you need to do if you're photographing on location, and I'm going to give you the rundown of what I do before I photograph on location and the tips I can share with you today. So first and foremost, if you're doing an on-location session, you need to go to the location on a different day than the actual session prior to the session. And you need to go the time of day when your session is gonna be. And that's, regardless if it's the client's home, if it's a park or whatever. If you're doing a planning session, the way that I do it is if it's in a client's home, I schedule my planning session on a different day than the photography session at the same time of day that I'm gonna be photographing. So I can walk into their home and really see what the light is doing. I can start looking at the best areas to photograph. And it really will help you prepare for your session versus going in blind and not having any idea what you're gonna be working with. So it really helps to start planning. I love planning sessions, so I've talked about that a lot. But if you're gonna be scouting though, and you're having a planning session and it's in the client's home, do it a different day, but same time that you would be photographing the actual session, so you can see what light you're gonna be working with. But on location, regardless if it's in a client's home or if it's at a park or just a different location, always going to that location prior to your shoot but at the same time of day is so important, because that way, like I said, you can start to build a plan. You can start to see what the light looks like at that time of day. Granted, outside it is going to be different depending on if you have clouds, if you have full sun, all that good stuff. But things to be looking for when you go on location. So you can start building out this plan. And the reason that I think a plan is so important is because the worst thing that can happen when you're on a shoot is you're walking around with your client, you're looking at all these things, and you've never been there before, and you don't know what the light is like. It's constantly changing, and you don't know what to do next. You don't want to have that kind of moment of kind of a lull where you're like, let's see, what are we gonna do next? You wanna have a plan in mind. And if you scout the location prior, you will, which will make a huge difference, not only the way your images come out, because you'll know where you're gonna shoot next and how you're gonna shoot it, but also in the level of professionalism that you're gonna give to your clients, because it looks like you know what you're doing. So go to this location, and then the first things you wanna look for are, you don't always want to look for the prettiest backdrop, because that may have the worst light. You want to look for the areas that have the best light and then work around what they look like. So best lighting situations like open shade. You can have that on a day when there's completely, clouds in the sky, diffused light. But if there's not, you have to anticipate having, let's say, the worst possible scenario. So looking for open shade. That can be under a tree, behind buildings, any place where you get this really nice shaded area. And I'm not talking about dappled light where you can see, like sometimes you get that when light's coming through like leaves on a tree, and you can see it on the ground where you have some shade and some light. And that can be a nightmare to work with when you're retouching, because having a really hot spot and then a normally exposed spot can be really difficult to work with. So open shade is your best bet. And when you go and look, and let's say you have an open shade spot, but it's just kind of like not the best, well, you need to start being creative and start thinking about perspectives. How am I going to photograph this shot? What does it look like when I get down on this level? What does it look like from this angle? And really work from there. I have had location shoots, one in particular that I can think of, where I was not able to visit the area prior. And so what I did is I had my client go take photos, because it was actually out of state. Go take photos of the place around the same time we were gonna photograph. And so I had these photos and I could kind of see what I was getting into, and to be honest, it looked like not much. But when you get there, you have to kind of look at, are there cool architectural lines? Are there leading lines, or really interesting pavers or concrete or whatever it may be? How can you use that to create something with more interest? So the biggest tips, scouting really shouldn't take that long of a time. It's really looking at the light, where you're gonna be working, kind of planning out your shots, and picking the best time of day spots to work with too. Sometimes, depending on your client's schedule, you may not have much flexibility. I will say, if you use an off-camera flash, that does give you a lot more flexibility on what time of day you can shoot. But again, going whatever time of day that may be, and the biggest tips are obviously scouting prior, looking at the light. and planning out your shots. But the key here is looking at the places that have the best light versus the best backgrounds. The places that may have the most beautiful backdrops may have really crappy light. So you want to pick the places with the most beautiful light first, because like I said, depending on your vision and how you see it and getting different perspectives and angles, that can really take a location that's kind of subpar to a really cool image. And I'm gonna show you some examples of that as well. So that you can see, you know, like the location I was saying that was out of state. When I saw it, it was just kind of like, it's okay, it's not great. But I was able to kind of change my perspective, find the good light, and create some really cool images. So keep those things in mind when you're out scouting. It will make a huge difference in your final work if you take the time to scout a location, be it in the client's home, on location, wherever. But take the time to scout, trust me, it will make a big difference. So thanks for tuning in. I look forward to talking with you soon.